I first started to play around with music production some years after I started to DJ. It was a desire to play my own stuff and see what I could create. And also I loved the music I was playing so much that I wanted to create some of it myself. In the beginning, I was just playing with the softwares. My first one was the FL Studio, that at the time it was called Fruity Loops. I've tried Reason, Cubase, but I never went really deep into it. I just went deep into it when I met Weba, who at that time was my boyfriend and who gave me a license for Ableton Live as a gift. And at that time, back in 2008, we were living in Czech Republic, and he started to teach me how to use the software. So he taught me some stuff. I would practice the whole day, and when he came back from work, I would ask some questions. He would teach me some more stuff. And then I started to research, to practice a lot, day and night, and things started to develop more and more. But these were my first contact, really, with the stuff. I did some production classes in the beginning, and I still study music theory, piano. I am taking some singing lessons. I'm learning the flute now. I think it is a very much an ongoing thing. It is a never-ending learning journey. There are always new things coming out, new ways of making music. I think if you stop being curious about it, you will stay a little bit behind. I got really lucky to have someone with more experience, a teacher, since the very beginning, who gave me a lot of shortcuts. I think it would probably take much more time to learn everything alone, but also nowadays we have much more information available. There are an immense volume of content, even free, very good content. And you can get both, like the classical sort of a training, and you can also get very specific techniques that aren't very common. So there are no excuses anymore. You just don't learn if you don't want. I remember the first track I ever did was completely done by layering samples on top of each other, but I don't think this is the way samples should be used. You can get really creative with samples. You can put your touch to it, your signature, through the way you process them, through the way you edit them. For me, the best example for this is Prodigy. They used tons of samples, but they really added their signature to it, and their sound sounds completely unique. So I think using samples this way can be as original as creating any sound on any synthesizer. Okay, so now that we have the sound, I'm gonna work on it a little bit more. I'm gonna use some saturation and reverb to give it more room and more body to the sound. First, let's saturate a little bit. And now I'm gonna add some reverb. I'm gonna use the AG9 pedal from Eventide, which I initially bought to bring with me to my gigs as an external effect, but it ended up being the studio. Even if you are a skilled sound designer, samples can still be very valuable because it is one more tool to create, to exercise your creativity and techniques. Sometimes I like the texture of a sample or the timbre, for example, so I use it as a starting point to create something totally different, but it's still with that initial thing that I liked. Sometimes I use samples as layers for an original sound that I created myself. So all this process alone can be a very powerful sound design tool. The goal of the sample pack was to translate my sound, but without being completely personal, so everybody who's gonna use it can still add their own identity. I try to focus on the stuff that I usually look for when I am making music, so different kinds of drums, some inspiring melodic parts, textures, effects. So from there, I created a lot of stuff and kept what I thought would translate my aesthetics the most. The idea behind this sample pack was to use almost 100% of the hardwares in the studio because they are less accessible. I also used some of the plugins I use in almost all of my tracks that are part of my signature sound, but mostly of the work was done using the machines. Some of them are really old and rare, like the MKS 80. Some are newer and more fancy, like the Moog one. There is the first synth ever we had in the studio, that is the Virus TI, the Prophet 6 also, that is really strong. So all of the machines are in the sample pack. I also did some processing the way I like to do when creating my own stuff. So compression, saturation, distortion, but still leaving plenty of room for the ones we're gonna use the sample pack to process them even further. I also try to explore a wide range of emotions when creating the sounds. So you're gonna find sounds suitable for creating a very energetic, ravey techno track, as well as some more introspective ambient sounds with more melodic content.